This is Scratch Your Own Itch, the one show that delivers the conversations that we're afraid to share, but need to. This show is all about creating a life worth living. I'm Logan Tyler Nelson, and I'm your host. So, you're going to hear conversations with creators and entrepreneurs talk about what they do, their current and past traumas, how they became who they are, and what they are truly curious about. This is the show where we talk about the things we think about a lot, but need to talk about more. Please take note that this show is not a substitute for actually creating a life worth living, because this show will stir your beliefs, make you question what it means to create a life worth living. So my promise to you is to always give you one question to answer for yourself today to start turning your dreams into a reality. Hey friends, so thank you so much for coming in and supporting the show by just listening like this. And geesh, I am getting some awesome reviews. I got an awesome new review this week that I gotta read off to you. It is from Mikey Levasit, and I want to say, Mikey, I'm sorry if I pronounce it incorrectly. But Mikey says Logan knows his stuff and is really passionate. He brings out a lot of great insights, whether research or when he shares personal stories. It's a must listen. And I also got another review from Fleepson. I love this dude. He's the man. Been talking to him lately on Facebook. He titles this Soothe Your Itch with Doses of SYOI, which is awesome. If you are new to podcast listening, or it's part of your routine, SYOI should be your wellness routine. Logan has a great passion, purpose, and perspective, couples with excellent, authentic, and heartfelt interviews with insights that scratch your itch that keep you coming back for more. Oh man, thank you so much, Ryan, dude. I really appreciate it. And I'm listening. Any of these reviews, please send in reviews, because it just allows this podcast to get found. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because that allows you to get new insight when new episodes are released. Also, I want to invite you to an opportunity. I'm just picking just a few people to launch a podcast with, and if they're a thought leader or if they have a business already, we'll see if you qualify for that. Just email me, Logan at logantylernelson.com. And the great part about podcasting is if you have a business already, then you probably have a circle of friends. I rather say circle of friends than network of people, because networking just sounds too businessy. I'd rather have you look at the circle of friends that you love to do work with. And when you do that and you sit in a room and record your awesome conversations, you give so much value to everybody that is listening in. And it gives you an opportunity too to just be more of you and to find your voice. So I want to really quickly offer that to you. And in this episode, though, with Mark and I, you'll hear some stuff that is a little bit abnormal. It's not my normal episode, and I really like that it's not my normal shtick. Wow, yeah, I cannot wait to give you guys some insight on why virtual reality is really not just for gaming. And I want you to ask this question that I ask in the beginning of the show. What if you could actually be inside the Matrix? Because the way I'm starting to see life is, honestly, it's all programs. It's all programs that we allow ourselves to download into our heads. And if this at all scratches your own itch and makes you a little curious of how virtual reality is not just for gaming, but it could be the way to solve any mental health issues. Maybe you don't have one yourself, but maybe you know a friend who does. And I would love for you to share this, because that's the best compliment ever if you find this informative or inspirational, uh, or if you just find this to scratch your own itch. So, without further ado, enjoy my interview with Mark Metry. Hey friends, so I have a futuristic topic for today's show. It's a little bit different than usual. My curiosity question is, what if you could actually be inside one world today and be in a completely different world that exact same day? Like the Matrix, right? Like you were plugged into some completely different universe. And then all of a sudden that same day or within that hour or maybe within that 2-hour lunch break that you get, you're in a completely different world. Well, if that at all like scratches your own itch, this episode is totally for you, because my guest today is Mark Metry. And although he's young, he's wicked smart, giving, and the go-to kid when it comes to questioning what virtual reality is. I mean, just imagine today you're in your office and it's boring. You're like, I don't want to be here anymore. And with a device and this gizmo in your pocket that Mark Metry's company helps provide. But he's the owner of View Dream, and he's a writer on Medium, Huffington Post, as well as other awesome, incredible entrepreneurial websites. So check him out. I really want to save more time about this discussion because I think VR is a huge topic that we need to get into and make a few people feel less alone with this technology that we have rolling out. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to the one and only Mark Metry.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Logan, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I am so excited to talk about VR and whatever else you have in store for me.
Oh man, I have a ton of questions for you, dude. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Mark had me on his podcast, Humans 2.0, which you definitely gotta check out. He has, if you at all are just a curious person, or you've gone through something hard and you just want to get yourself out of it, like some traumatic event that you're going through and you just want to be better today, get curious and check out his podcast. I'm not joking you. That is the Drano to feeling bad about yourself, is when you get curious. But anyways, I want to get into Mark and his story a little bit, just so you know who he is. So, Mark, I got to ask you, I like to start off the show a little bit in a vulnerable state, as you know. So what is that one failure or one traumatic event that you think changed you for the rest of your life?
Sure. So I'm 20 years old right now, and about a year and a half ago, during my freshman year in college, I went in college first semester. I had fun with it. Basically ended up failing 2 out of the 4 classes that I was taking. And, that didn't really bum me out too much. And the following semester, this is something I'm still trying to figure out about myself, but I just hit this huge, rock bottom, depression, crippling anxiety. I was, right now I weigh around, like 155 pounds, and I was over 205 pounds, and I had just gained that over that semester. and I had used food as an escape. I'd end up sleeping at 4 a.m. every day, go to class at 8 a.m., come back, take a nap, and it was just my life was just in complete disarray. And really what ended up happening was, after that year, I over that summer, I was basically like, I don't know what just happened, but I know whatever just happened, I never want to repeat again. So what ended up happening was my following year at college, I went on this diet. It's called Bulletproof, and I really started eating healthy vegetables and fats. And really, for the first time in my life, it felt like my brain had turned on. And at that same time, I had also just started meditating. I had started reading. I had really tried to put in the initiative in my life. And, the coming out of that was I was home one day. This is in October, and I was just sitting in my room by myself, and I just thought, what am I doing with my life? And a little bit of context beforehand. When I was 16, I started a Minecraft server, which led to be a very, very, very successful business. And I've created multiple apps, and really just I think that's part of my creation process. And really starting from college, which I'm kind of thinking it is now, freshman year, I didn't really create anything. I had kind of succumbed to the original, not creation phase of, oh yeah, you're a college student, man. You got to go to class, and then you got to study, and then you got to drink alcohol, and then you got to talk to these people, and then you got to do that. And I just didn't really buy that. And when I was in my room and I figured what I got to change my life around, I didn't know how, but I got up. I just walked outside. I walked to Target. I bought a whiteboard, and I basically just wrote down a bunch of goals that, the goals themselves aren't really that important. They were pretty far fetched, but it was more or less the initiative. And discovering from the latest podcast episode that I recorded with a psychotherapist, I really realized that I was in a trance. I was in a subconscious trance of where my life was going, and my subconscious mind was trying to pull me out of it. And on my way back after I had bought that whiteboard, I just started crying. And it's because I became aware of the trance that I was falling into of, hey, you're a college student. When you graduate, you're going to be a computer science a developer at Apple and make $100,000 a year, which really isn't interesting to me, not because of the money, but just me not being able to do what I really want to do in life. And that awareness woke me up out of the trance. And really from that moment in my life, that literal moment, I've been a completely different person. I've done extraordinary things up to that moment. I'm going to do extraordinary things after that, and really I think that was that was my real failure, and then getting over it.
Wow. Ah, man. Geesh. It is, I think, amazing now of a story of a for a sort of a hero's journey of going. And I know exactly what it's like. The first time you finally start to think clearly, it is almost like you were living a whole different lifestyle, a whole different life. And I'm
100%.
so, yeah, I'm so thankful, dude, that you found that thing that you needed to start doing to get yourself out of it. And really, I guess it kind of, I'm just curious why you haven't actually poured yourself in, because it sounds like health is actually a very big part of your life. Why you haven't made that a career instead of doing what you are doing, which we'll get into a little bit later, but the virtual reality side. Why didn't you get into health?
Yeah, well, like, here's the thing. I'm not, I definitely went to the gym every day, but I'm not like this guy that, does like these certain workouts. Like my knowledge in the gym is extremely limited, but I've read dozens of books on nutrition and things like that because that really interests me because it was an awareness that I never had. Like I just thought food was food and you just eat it when you're hungry. I had no idea the effect it had on your body, your physical, your mental, your spiritual. And, probably the reason why I haven't got into it is just because it's like one of those things that's like, mm, I don't necessarily know too much. And it's something I'm definitely passionate about because it relates to all humans, but it's not the core path that I want to go in life, if that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Totally get it.
Awesome.
It definitely, I ponder it a lot because I'm too, I don't know if you know how curious people are, but they want to do everything. And I have to really remind myself of that quote that's, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. So I really just quickly have to ask you, because I'm just super curious, what is your favorite quote?
My favorite quote, ooh, this is a hard one. If you asked me If you asked me what my favorite quote was a few years ago, it would be a quote by Mark Twain, and it's "Don't let your schooling interfere with your education." And that's because I just really thought high school from the get-go was just complete BS. And same thing with college. If you ask me now what my favorite quote is, it's probably a quote by Steve Jobs, which I recently, um, looked into, and I have it up here on my screen. It's kind of funny you asked. It's a You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down and it has made all the difference in my life. And when I started my business, my sophomore year, nothing kind of made sense at all. And same thing with the podcast. But now, slowly but surely, everything is connecting. Like you can't make sense of your life and you can't figure it out. It seems tempting because it seems every time we go on Instagram or Facebook, everyone has everything figured out. And even if you're listening to this podcast, you might think I haven't figured out, but I literally have no idea what's going on. And I knew even less last year, but it's just that over consistent action. And then after getting over a point, then you can look back and be like, oh my God, that makes so much more sense. And I see how the dots are going to connect a year, 2 years from now.
Yeah, we as human beings want to make meaning out of everything. And that's the thing. It's hard to make meaning out of something that yet hasn't been planted. So like, if you're trying to
Mhm.
make meaning of the future by figuring it out in a room by yourself, doing nothing, just having thoughts, well, that's not really gonna make up a really great part of your life. You're probably just gonna go, I feel like I wasted my time. But I want to say that if you're doing that right now and you're in that place, you're not alone because there's a lot of people that feel that they feel like they're not moving forward because it's like losing weight. You don't see it every single day in the mirror. It takes time, and only through time can you really look back. But anyways, that is totally not what I want to talk about right now. What I really want to talk about is I really love that quote that you just said, and I also want to talk about virtual reality and what is it and how do you define it?
Sure. So virtual reality is essentially it's essentially replacing your not permanently, but just in a temporary setting, whether that's via a screen in front of your eyes or a neuro implant. It's replacing what you see normally natural physical reality with a computer generated virtual reality. And I kind of got involved with this because this is kind of related to the question of, I was in a school project and I was assigned VR for some, random reason. And I basically did a lot of research and I found that even though it's still very early in the process, VR is already being used to help veterans with PTSD, to help little kids with autism, And VR is basically going to disrupt every single industry in the world right now, and this is just the beginning of it.
So do you think that I laugh at this idea of everyone having virtual reality actually at their home, in which they would actually get taught by their teacher at home instead of going to school just because they're virtual reality goggles.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a thing, right?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I mean, I think like if you look now, like I'll just be clear about this because like a lot of people look at VR right now and they're like, oh yeah, these glasses are cool and yeah, I get to hold them up in my face and my phone connects to it. But I like thinking about the micro and the macro. The micro is that Facebook, Google, HTC are investing billions of dollars into virtual and augmented reality. The macro, big picture of this stuff is 20 years from now, again, I don't know the exact times, but 10, 20 years from now, you and I are going to be sitting in our houses and we're going to have either a contact lens, whether that's made by Apple or Magic Leap, and we're basically going to be able to switch from augmented reality, which is kind of like Snapchat, Pokemon Go, putting virtual objects in physical reality so you can still see physical reality and you're just blending the two digital and physical worlds together to where you can hit a switch and then you can go into complete virtual reality. So, 10, 15 years from now, we'd be able to do this podcast as if I'm right in front of you. I would be able to see you exactly indistinguishable from reality as if there's literally no difference. We'd be able to record and even other people could even join our, whether it's you're in my home as an augmented reality hologram or we're in a curated virtual reality podcast world. That's really the big picture. That's where this is all heading.
Wow. Dude. Oh my God, that's so cool. That is so cool. So, do you think that it's getting a little useless to have certain jobs because of this sort of technology? Meaning like the reason why I'm asking this question is because I kind of want because it's so futuristic based. So one question I have is, what jobs should people stop kind of having? Like, and maybe this is not in your area of expertise, but what jobs do you see kind of being, I guess, outsourced just for robots rather than humans doing that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, short answer, everything. Long answer is, basically, a lot of people are talking, even aside from VR, AI and robots, a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, automation and AI is going to replace all these jobs. Technology has been replacing jobs since forever. Like, go look at the agricultural industry, how like they're being so heavily subsidized by the government because they're literally creating too much corn and there aren't enough farmers because technology has basically replaced it all. So I think that you can kind of, depending on what age of humanity you're looking at, you can really say that, this stuff is basically going to replace all jobs. And I think a big part of that is, I think the first step of VR is the internet. And I think the internet is the ultimate middleman, and it's basically going to replace, half of the jobs that we see right now in its mature form. And I think in terms of VR, I think, like honestly, when we get to the time where human beings are just completely living in VR, I think we're going to be in a completely different age of humanity where asking if you have a job isn't even going to be a question. And I think AR and VR are going to be I think they're going to lead to humanity's next stage of evolution.
Have you ever wanted to be an authority in something that you're really passionate about? To just finally scratch your own itch? To take a passion and turn it into profit? What if, in a series of interviews, we could give you a format When you answered the right questions and kept on a conversation going for a few weeks, you would have a book that we would help you edit and publish, and something that you could start telling the world. It would be personal. It would be your story, with your memories, with your expertise. You know you have a great story to tell. You know you've lived and learned through so many things. But you keep falling into this chronic illness that a lot of us have. Oh, I want to write a book about this or that or this or that. Well, my team is helping people scratch their own itch and get super focused and clear on what it is that they want to have authorship over. Have you always wanted to write your own book? Do you even sometimes say out loud, if only if I had a book, or if only I had just a way to record my thoughts? Well, this is your opportunity. Email Logan@LoganTylerNelson.com. Again, that's Logan@LoganTylerNelson.com. Oh, so friggin' crazy. This is cool.
It's ridiculous, man.
This is really wild. And you know what's really scary about it? There's a small group of people that are really diving into this, and I think it's an opportunity for anyone who feels like they're nothing, feels like they have nothing really going for them. There's an opportunity to jump on this and super geek out of it because it's such a small group. I'm not saying that if you spend an hour a day learning about VR, you're going to be an expert in 4 weeks, but certainly if you poured some good amount of time into it, you could be an expert in this field much faster than you could in a lot of other fields. And you could disagree with me in that. I just see that kind of being.
You're 100% correct.
Wow, that's nuts. So then you're kind of talking about AR, man. What factors should someone bear in mind when they choose an AR company or a VR company to help them experience what it's like to be inside of that world?
Which VR and AR apps to use?
Yeah,
Is that the question?
I know you have your company, right?
Mhm.
What sort of
Yeah.
factors are differentiating those companies from not being the same? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay, so sure. So in terms of hardware, I would say you don't really have a choice just because the market is so limited right now. Like you have Oculus from Facebook, you have HTC, you have Google, and then there's dozens and I don't know if you watched CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, just a few weeks ago. But basically, over 100 new VR headsets are coming out. Over 50 new augmented reality glasses are coming out. So in terms of hardware, it's really hard to tell. It's like what we're seeing here with VR and AR. It's basically like if you take the computer industry, the internet industry, and you combine them times 1,000, that's what VR and AR are going to be. So in terms of choosing your VR and AR software apps and stuff, honestly just do what's fun. Don't try to don't try to fake it. Don't try to spend time in VR and AR if you don't like it. I'll personally say AR on the smartphone sucks because it's not practical. It's not with your glasses. You have to bring the phone up and then you see this 3D model, which sure, in some cases it's definitely useful, but for right now it's not. And big picture speaking, VR and AR are going to be the biggest companies in terms of data. So I would probably, depending on when you're watching this, whether it's within this decade or not, I would find a VR and AR company that uses blockchain technology to secure your data. So then that way it's decentralized and not one corporation owns it. Because like a lot of people talk about the internet and Facebook and data and privacy. This is nothing. This is absolutely nothing compared to what's coming. Like Facebook knows what you're looking at, like what posts you're seeing. But with VR and AR, when a company or when that artificial reality is controlled, they will practically know what exactly your eyes are moving, what exactly how long you're staring at, and then depending on how far we go with neuro, they'll know how you feel when you look at something. So in terms of data, I think that's a huge, huge issue that we haven't even talked about in VR and AR. I think that's definitely a priority that you should consider when choosing your VR and AR apps.
Yeah, no one really has talked about that because it's just and it's gonna happen where I think different. This is just my guess, and I'm not even closely at all considerably an expert at this, but there are different. I think there's going to be different tiers for what sources you're utilizing. Like they talked about once upon a time that they were going to charge certain tiers for the internet overall. Like you could only access certain websites if you had
Mm-hmm.
this, like how cell phone companies they all have their premium providence because of why? Because they have better service. You get more service everywhere you are, and you get the same thing. I think with VR, and you can totally add in. And I would love for you to add in is the same idea. If you're in a certain place, you might have a better experience with VR than you would if you're in another place. And then also that could go into also like paying for your experience, like the quality of the experience. I think does come down to obviously the technology that you have and the gear that you have, but also more so the quality of your experience within a like if you go to an actual like virtual reality game zone, you're probably going to pay a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's just I don't know. I guess I'm letting my mind run right now because this is just so wild. But yeah, any comments on that sort of idea or ideologies around that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think VR game zones are the first step towards mainstream adoption. And I think if you look all around, basically, in the US at least, and I know a lot of places worldwide, basically every major US city has an arcade or two. And I think because like you got to consider if you want to try good legit VR, you have to buy like a nice desktop computer, which is going to cost minimum $500 plus the headset. Add on another $500. Most people just to try out VR aren't going to do that. So I think the number one mainstream adoption step is VR arcades because you can just walk in and try this VR thing for like $20, see if you like it or not, and yeah, and I think that's going to be the main way people are going to get interested in VR.
So that is so cool. That touches on another topic that I kind of like to ask is you don't have to be like fully open with it if you don't, but I would love it if you could talk about costs and the cost that your company would charge one to have their gadgets and just the different price tiers in that.
Yeah, sure. So my company doesn't do that. What ViewDream is? ViewDream is a B2B uh, virtual reality and augmented reality marketing and advertising agency for dozens of different VR and AR companies that are growing. But in terms of costs of like setting up the equipment,
Yeah, I guess that's where I was going. I thought because I thought there was a part where your company kind of consults in that area, sets it up, and
yeah, no. So we consult VR and AR companies on how to basically grow their business and how to market and how to advertise and how to best really market something that we don't even have yet, that the average person doesn't even know about. That's what we do because it's really different from other marketing and advertising agencies because the the majority of the population doesn't have any idea what VR is. But in terms of cost and stuff, on the consumer side, you know, and here's the thing: new VR headsets are coming out every day, so this stuff is really, really temporary. Like for example, Facebook is coming out with a standalone headset, and what that means is you don't need a phone, you don't need a computer. It literally just runs all by itself, and it's for $200. So this stuff is changing really fast. Um, but yeah, but if you really want to have a nice VR head setup where you can just get totally immersed, I would recommend, as of right now, as of January 30th, 2018, go for the HTC Vive with room tracking. It costs around $600. And if you want a good computer to run it, it's probably going to be another $750. But then again, all these things are changing so fast. Like HTC, the same company I just quoted, is already coming out with 3 new headsets. Um, so yeah, so this cost stuff is changing every day.
This is wild. That's crazy. Oh gosh. Dude, I heard on your podcast actually. I was listening to it the other day, and I heard you guys talk about Mark Zuckerberg, Mr. Marky Mark wants to touch 1 billion people
Mm.
with VR systems, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's not incredibly crazy out of this world, but it just goes to show you that he's really pouring himself into this technology just because that's where it's going. Like this is just the next step. It's no longer 2D, 3D. That's old. That's old news.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like I make this joke often, and it's like we're gonna be thinking in the future. We're gonna be like, wow, remember when we used to simulate the metaverse on a 2D, different multicolored light L, LCD screen? Like that. That's what we're gonna be saying. We're like, dude, why would you go to Facebook.com when you can literally go to Facebook? Because it's going to be a legit location in VR.
Dude, that's just nuts. Oh, that's so cool though. I love this stuff now. And so, dude, I feel honestly so lucky and fortunate just to be meeting you because of the stuff that you're doing and the work that you're doing in this area and this topic. And dude, we got some big ideas. I'm doing a shout out right now. Huge ideas for what as far as maybe creating certain programs around this stuff, just because I know
Mm-hmm.
that you know some people that are totally within their skill set. So I guess I want to end out the show like that for the last 10 minutes, just doing scratching the surface sort of curiosity questions about. I don't know, it's gonna be hard
Mm-hmm.
to have like obviously the first thing that comes to your mind, but because this show is really about making people feel less alone and also learning
Mm-hmm.
more about you as a person, and therefore they usually learn a lot
Mm-hmm.
about themselves. So, with
Mm-hmm.
that, I'd love to start these whenever you're ready.
I'm always
All
ready, man.
right, awesome. I know you are, but I just gotta double check, bro. Anyways, the first
Awesome.
question I love to ask is, what's a terrible thought that you keep having that you wish you didn't have anymore?
A terrible thought that I keep having um, is sure. So a terrible thought that it's not too consistent, but it's probably one of the worst ones I have, just because it's little bit it's weakening to the integrity of my character, but it's basically like this. Like I said, when I was younger, when I was 16, I basically lucked out, and I basically started one of the easiest businesses that became extremely profitable with a 99% profit margin and almost no work. And I think like when I think of that in the terms of the grand scale, like, oh, I'm Mark. When I was 16, I ran a 6-figure business and whatnot. But a thought that keeps happening to me is like, okay, Mark, maybe you just completely lucked out and you don't know what you're doing here. And maybe it was just the luck of the draw. Maybe you should just go get a normal job. That's basically it.
Wow, wow, man, bro.
which I don't think is true,
Yeah,
by the
I would
way.
give you such a bro hug right now. Like I'm giving you a virtual bro hug. Like seriously, no joke. That is but it's exactly what I'm studying and writing my book about. This sort of duality of our two conscious thoughts or two minds actually.
Mm,
The one mind telling us that, that we're ugly or that we're not smart and whatnot. And that's just like a negative
mhm,
thought that even freaking Brad Pitt has that thought. That's not true,
sure.
or like in your case, that's not true that you just lucked out or you didn't work that hard. Like the proof is in the pudding, my friend. And even if you had another thought that was similar to that, it's not true. Just because you can go out there and prove it right away that, dude, you are
Hmm.
successful. Anyways, these are supposed to be scratching the surface curiosity questions I'm supposed to be super fast with. So, thank you for sharing that with us. The next question I would really love to ask is, when do you think virtual reality sex is going to start happening?
Right now, it's
Oh
already happening.
God, that's so weird. Oh,
Yeah, like I think, yeah, there's a company. I have no idea what it's called, but they're like they give you like a sex doll, and then they give you a VR headset, and like they synchronize together. But yeah, like if you like just now, I think the number one thing people are searching for on Google is VR porn. I'm pretty sure that's the number one use case of VR right now.
oh man, I can't believe I just switched. I switched gears
Yeah.
way too fast, going from vulnerable to just. Oh, yeah. Someone is probably listening right now and going, "Oh, that's okay. That's weird." Oh, anyways,
I mean, if you edit this, you could just switch up the order.
it's
So
it's something I won't do because I don't. I just want it to be transparent. But
cool.
that's a great idea, dude. I should take your advice more often and work with you because you probably have a better show. Anyways, it is what it is, and therefore, I really want to ask you, what is one person that you wish you could be for an entire month and why?
um, I know I'm gonna sound really cheesy saying this, but I really wouldn't want to be any other person. But if I had to, just for like a strategy business perspective, so like I could learn and then take that and apply in my own life, probably Gary Vaynerchuk or Mark Zuckerberg.
Dude, I freaking love that you say that because that's the only way. When I got asked this question, I answered it so similar. That was the because I do love being myself, even though I have so many flaws. But like, I just like to learn what it's like after I take and I become that person for just a month and then apply it to my own life because I think it would be so much more helpful. But yeah, that is crazy. That's
Mm.
crazy. Uh, um, what is a time where you think that you wasted a bunch of money on something that you shouldn't have? And what was it on? And why are you not going to make that same mistake?
I wasted a bunch of just
Yeah, I
money.
just made it terrible because I think we've all felt terrible about wasting money. We've all felt like, gosh, we suck. Like I shouldn't have spent money on that. But what's something that you really spent a
Hmm.
ton of money on that was just a waste?
To be honest, not much, but like I've never really had that. But probably the closest thing to that was when I first started my business. This one, the View Dream. I ended up hiring a marketing and advertising agency because at first my website, my business wasn't getting any traffic whatsoever, and I just thought it was gonna fail. And I basically hired them, paid them, basically threw a bunch of money in the trash because just like the reason I told you before, when you're trying to market VR and AR, it's something completely different. And like just me losing that money brought me to my next lesson, which enabled me to pivot my business to being a media agency as somebody who wasted a bunch of money on marketing and advertising that didn't work to being the right marketing advertising agency for VR and AR companies that does work and that does save them money.
So it's like, that is hilarious.
Yeah, I
Because
know.
it's like not at all how college works. That's the usually. I don't want to call out and say that college is a waste of money at all, but like,
College is a complete waste of money, bro. You're 100. I'm 100% with you. But the thing is that if I never went to college and if I never spent that money, I wouldn't have figured out college is such a waste of time, and I don't want to get a 9 to 5. So if I didn't do that, I still think I'd be on the normal path.
dude, you know what? Honestly, you just smoked my truth. Like, I just think that, because I just don't want to put it out there that no one should go to college. But at the same time, I know that for sure college is a waste of time. It's passive education where you're learning from people that are not going to get you really where you want to go. I mean, the people that are working universities, they just want security. And if that's all you want, security, then get a 9 to 5. And like you're saying, 9 to 5 isn't for everyone. But anyways, that's because we're in the podcasting world, and I think we kind of live in this world of being creative and uh, not just only being creative, but living a life that's worth living. And anyways, that's a whole side tangent. We should do an episode on that. Okay, Mark? So come back on. We'll set that down
I'm done.
and do it. Uh, the next curiosity question is, what do you think is the best question to ask yourself when you're in the darkest of times?
Sure. Um, I'm gonna think about this one here for a
That's
second.
fine.
Probably, who are you? And what I mean by that is not necessarily the fact of trying to, solidify your identity, but in the sense of, when you ask yourself who you really are, you can really, like, you can really just, you can reinvent yourself from the ground up. And like in your darkest times, like a lot of the times that's because, as flawed humans with flawed minds, we often perceive that just because it's happening now, we think that things are going to happen forever. Like if you're tired now, your mind thinks you're always going to be tired. You're not going to be motivated to do things. But that's really not true at all. And who you are, that's just to question, yourself, and to really give yourself an open framework and say, hey, I might not like these things about myself, but the thing is I can change, and I can be whoever I want to be. And personally for me, at the end of the day, I can be whoever I want to be, as long as I'm personally for me, as long as I'm, living my life in service to others. And I find that when I'm in a dark place, thinking about myself is it's so selfish. And what I mean by that is that it's not really about you. It's, your life is about what you're going to do to other people and how you're going to help them. And if you're going through this dark time right now, you can use that to bring out a gem from your journey and deliver it to others.
Wow, that's excellent, excellent, excellent little. I don't want to call it advice because it's like it should just be something that you breathe in and you do. Just do
Mm.
this. Just do
Hmm.
this. Because you are so right on so many levels. And I just want to say Tony Robbins should watch out because Mark Mentry's after him. No, dude, I'm not even joking you. Seriously, yes, that is incredible. Thank you so much for saying that. I don't want to end it out any stronger than that because I just don't think it could until Mark plugs himself. Shameless plug. Where can people find you? And yeah, pick your brain.
Sure. You can just Google my name, Mark Metry. At the moment, right now, I'm the founder of ViewDream, and I also run a podcast called Humans 2.0. You can look it up on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, whatever you want. And I'm also in the middle of starting a nonprofit organization, which you can follow on Instagram. It's called Metamorphosis App. And yeah, one one thing that I want to leave everyone with is, you could be somebody that, you could be just a passive consumer, and you could just be consuming things, and you're not happy in life, and you just want to do something. The best thing I'm going to leave you with is, take responsibility for your life, take responsibility for your actions, take responsibility for all the good and the bad, take action, and just find a way. That's the three-step formula to doing anything you want in this world. And yeah, that's all I got.
Thank
Thanks for listening.
Yes. That's dude, you just said it all. I don't have anything to add at all. Usually I end it off with something, sort of like not inspirational, because I just don't believe in inspiration anymore. I just really do believe in the quality of questions lead to the quality of life. So if you ask that one awesome question, and no one's gonna judge you and go, should I think about answering that question? It's just gonna propel you into doing the next best thing that you can. It's like, yeah, kind of like making your bed. These small investments throughout the day make a quality life. So, anyways, thank you, Mark, so much for being on Scratch Your Own Itch, and we'll have to get you back on here, dude. I love the way your brain operates, and we'll do another virtual reality 2.0 / entrepreneurial talk / what the heck is going on in virtuality in just like 3 months from now. And just because I know it's going to be almost 180 degrees different, it's just, yeah. Anyways, so I will talk to you later, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks everybody for listening. Logan, you're the man, bro. Your podcast is awesome, and I highly recommend everyone for to just take a deeper look at who the host is, Logan, because he's a great guy. Thanks everyone for listening.
Thanks, Mark, man. Alright, well, there's another episode of Scratch Your Own Itch with Mark Metry and I. Thanks again for taking the time to sit until the end and listen in and support the show by listening. And please share this episode if you found it informative, or if you just found it really, really interesting. Like maybe this is something that you haven't yet heard about, and you want more people to talk in this way of virtual reality thinking and thinking about the future and thinking about the future of work. Wow, Mark is just a great guy too. I can't say enough about Mark. I love the dude, seriously. He's been a real champion in my life lately, and I'm so fortunate and lucky to have this time that I've had with him. So check him out at markmetry.com. And leave a review if you got the chance. I love to read the reviews on the show and just let my listeners know exactly what the show is doing for them. And if you have any recommendations for guests that you'd like to see on the show, please let me know. So, yeah. And I want to do a quick shout out to Melissa Minuti, who has just been a real champion in my life lately. And I bring her up because she's really taught me what it is to give up your own time, to be really truly selfish in order to be selfless. And she's taught me how to be selfish in order to be selfless. And I want you to maybe take an opportunity to be selfish for yourself and ask yourself how you can be selfish today in order to be really selfless. So if that's health, or if that's maybe your sleep, your eating schedule, and I would love for you to email me, Logan at logantylernelson.com, and just tell me how you were selfish in order to be selfless. And I know it takes a lot of time out of your day to do something like that. So if I receive any email from you on this particular issue, I'm not going to just read it as another email. I will take it to heart. And I would love to further our conversation, become friends. So, without further ado, you matter and you're enough.